What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. I'm on 10.1.5. We're on the PTR today. I want to talk about the upcoming changes to Mage. There are some massive changes coming down the line for Mages. And again, Blizzard is just continuing this trend that they have had with these massive class changes coming through, right? At the beginning of the expansion, it was like Shadow Priest got some big changes, and they got further changes in 10.1. And then Rep Paladin got like completely reworked, right? And they're on to Mages now. And they're going to rework basically all three of the Mage specs. They talk about it in a blue post here. But I'll give you the TLDR on this, and it's basically that this first round of changes are going to focus on the class tree and Arcane Mage, okay? And then Fire and Frost are going to come later hopefully in this patch. I believe it'll be in this patch. Sorry, patch 10.1.5. It's not the live patch. It's coming, the next patch coming. So we're starting with the class tree and with Arcane, and then they're going to move on to the other two specs later. Let me just run through all the changes for you and sort of highlight what I think is interesting about it and why they're really important. So let's just jump right in. First of all, the biggest change is going to be that they're removing Rune of Power for all mages. And they basically talk about here that, limiting a spec to a 12-second duration where they have to be in a particular spot for 12 seconds is kind of like unplayable for Raid, for Mythic Plus, and for PvP. You just can't be expected to stand there, or even, I know you can stand on the edges of it, like that kind of thing, but it's just not possible to be there for that long. That's the first thing that they highlight, is that your Rune of Power is going to be gone, and you can see now in the talent tree that it used to be right up here in the middle, and Shifting Power has now taken the place of Rune of Power, and what used to be Incanter's Flow. There was a choice node there, so that's gone now. So let me highlight the rest of the talents that are coming through on the class side, because this is a really important thing, and again, this is probably the biggest change of all the changes, that Rune of Power is gone. They talk about how they're going to shift all of the damage that came from Rune of Power into some of the baseline damaging abilities, things like Arcane Blast, I think, and Frostbolt, and some of your highest damaging abilities, maybe like Arcane Barrage. Or if that doesn't work out so well, they're going to shift it into like your major cooldowns like Combustion, Icy Veins, or Arcane Surge. So they have a plan for where you're going to get that 40% damage that you've lost. But you're now not going to have to worry about standing in a particular spot for a very long time, which is super, super cool. So, Rune of Power gone. Shifting Power has moved up. It used to be in the bottom left corner here, which has a new capstone. Get to that in a minute. This is really significant, this change, because it means that you don't have to path down into the left side of the tree anymore if you don't want to. You can actually spec over to the other side of the tree or go down the middle. Like you have choices now, which is really, really good. So that's awesome. Number 3, Greater Invis has moved over to the right-hand side. It used to be in the middle, and Displacement is in the middle now. It teleports you back to where you were and heals you for about 23k. This is not even a max-level character. This is a level 67 Mage, so don't worry about the numbers. We're just here to talk about what's going on in here. So Displacement is here. Greater Invis has moved over, okay? There's a new bottom left capstone called Ice Cold. This is super cool. So Ice Block now reduces all damage you take by 70% for 6 seconds, but it no longer makes you immune. It no longer prevents movement or attacks or casting spells. It does not incur the global cooldown. So this is actually insane, particularly for Frost Mage, which gets Cold Snap and can get Ice Block back. There's 2 charges of Ice Block for Frost Mage, right? This is just a 70% DR now that you can use, and you can keep casting while you're using it. That is, like, completely broken, in my opinion. I think this is, like, the best defensive in the entire game now. Obviously, if you need the immunity, particularly if you're in, like, a raid scenario, and you need the immunity, then for sure, you can just not take this, and you'll have the immunity. But if you don't need the immunity, this is completely busted now for mages, especially for Frost Mage. Very, very cool ability. Okay. Next big change is over here on the right-hand side. This is the last kind of big change going on here. There's a new choice node as a capstone. You can either take Mass Barrier or Mass Invisibility. And this is super cool. I have Mass Barrier right now. If I jump in here, I'll cast my own barrier on myself. If you do Mass Barrier afterwards, it just stacks it. It doesn't stack. It just replaces it. So But there's a bunch of people in here. I can just walk in here and go boom. And then they get, that went on way too many people. But it says it puts it on yourself and 3 nearby allies. So now these guys all have barriers. This is actually really significant. Look at what this barrier does. It absorbs a whole bunch of damage. This is a very low geared character. This probably goes up to like 50, 60, 80,000 barrier probably. So you can put it on 4 people, yourself included. And if you're Arcane Mage, it reduces your magic damage taken by 25% and reduces the duration of all harmful magic effects by 40%. Now, that's because I have the improved prismatic barrier, but the barriers, not only are they a shield, but they all provide extra bonuses, right? The frost shield will slow melee attackers. The fire shield deals extra damage to melee attackers. But the magic shield from Arcane Mage, I think this is the most significant. Reducing magic damage taken by 25%. That's insane. Like, obviously, on your tank, this is only going to matter once the shield breaks it, and it will break pretty quickly. But for all of your other, like, your DPSs and your healers in the key, in your Mythic Plus key, let's say, that's a really big deal, I think. I think it's super, super cool that you can put shields on everybody. I really love that. So, I love this change. Mass Invisibility is just like Rogues having Shroud. Now Mages have a Shroud, which is super cool. Instantly become invisible for all allies within 40 yards. I did test this, and it says any action taken will break the effect. Moving does not count as an action, okay? So you can move with Mass Invisibility. So those are all the major changes that are coming for the class 3. I think they're super exciting. Moving, shifting power up, and getting rid of Rune of Power gives the Mage better ability to do damage without having to stand on that stupid rune and risking dying. Shifting power moving up is great. You can grab it. You don't have to come over here if you don't want to, but there you have an insane defensive ability now, and then you have some group utility now, which is super, super cool. I love that. Very, very good. So now we're moving on to this. They talk about Arcane and their AoE damage, and they talk about Fire and Frost a little bit later, but here's the main stuff for Arcane. They want to make, give a more consistent way for Arcane Mages to deal AoE damage. They want to make it a little bit simpler and a little bit easier to execute, for example. So, right now, you have to stack like 15 different cooldowns all on top of each other, and then they all kind of explode with Touch of the Magi. So you're doing like, you know, Spark with maybe Nether Tempest if you want to into like Arcane Surge, and then you're like barraging 4 times with the Arcane Surge to build up your arcane power, and then you're detonating it with a huge barrage at the very end of a Touch of the Magi, and then the Touch of the Magi detonates and does a bunch of damage, and it's just like, it's very convoluted. It's very complicated. They want to come up with simpler ways. So they've moved some talents around. You've got things like Nether Tempest right here and Supernova. I don't actually know if this is going to be any good, if this is really going to change how Arcane Mage does its AoE damage. This doesn't look a whole lot different to me right now. You still have Radiant Spark. You still have Touch of the Magi. They've just kind of moved some stuff around a little bit. So I want to know from you guys, if you're an Arcane Mage player, I think Hero did a video on this recently too. I'm not really sure what's different here. Are you really going to be able to take like Nether Tempest plus Supernova plus Arcane Orb and like not have to take Touch of the Magi and not have to take Spark anymore? I think that there's more changes that are coming down the pipe here soon. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what the difference is really between the tree is just structured differently. That's all that I see here. So we're gonna have to see. They are working on the tree layout. They want to make it more flexible to pick up unique nodes that aren't always direct throughput. We've shifted Arcane Barrage and Clear Casting baseline. So this is really, really cool. You can see the old Arcane tree had Arcane Barrage right here and Clear Casting as abilities that you had to pick up. Now those are baseline. They're gone. You start with Arcane Missiles now, and Clear Casting is just gone. So very, very good. So you've redeemed 2 points, actually. They're baseline now, and you can spend those somewhere else. So that's really, really good for Arcane Mage. I love to see that kind of stuff. And they've untied Reverberate from Nether Tempest. So now you can, I guess, take both of these things, right? Nether Tempest, and then Reverberate is further down. Where was it? Reverb. Oh, it's up above. Right. It's up here. If Arcane Explosion hits at least 3 targets. So they're kind of encouraging you, I think, to go over to maybe an Arcane Explosion way to help you do AoE damage besides just having the big nuclear launch that you put into a Touch of the Magi. So again, we're going to have to see if that's actually good or not. I'm not really sure. Added new connections from Nether Tempest, removed the Arcane Power talent, and folded it into Arcane Surge. So there used to be a node right underneath Arcane Surge that buffed it. Now they've just added it baseline into Arcane Surge. So again, some more really, really good talents, sort of making it more efficient and better optimized for you. The goal of these changes is to give you a couple of extra points to play with and to create a more positive experience as you navigate through the tree, enabling you to create a spec that fits your needs. So again, not entirely sure if the AoE profile is really going to change too much from the way it is right now, which is just detonating a huge nuclear touch of the Magi. We'll have to see, okay? Fire and Frost, not being changed right now. That's going to come a little bit later on the PTR. We have plans for them in upcoming PTR builds, okay? So might not even be... It's going to be in, I think, 10.1.5, just in a further PTR build. I believe that's what it means, okay? Here's what they're doing with Fire, though, in the future. They gave some good detailed explanation of what they want to do. For Fire, they're giving them more build choices. Right now, there's things like Living Bomb that don't even get used at all. Flame Strike is a really bad button to basically press. You're only really doing your damage through Ignite, and they talk about it here. Fire suffers from an one build fits all talent tree, which is problematic for a couple of reasons. Lack of choice variety. Ignite dealing a large portion of your damage, so they want to change that a little bit. Here's how they're going to do that. Moving forward, we want to explore ways we can create alternate AoE builds that aren't just Ignite stacking. Reduce the amount of 2-point nodes to free up a few points, which is very nice. Shift some abilities to baseline, such as Flame Strike and Cauterize. So very, very good. Those are going to be removed from the tree, made baseline, and then you don't have to invest points into them. But maybe you'll be able to invest some power talents, essentially, that are going to buff Flame Strike that you just get baseline now, okay? That's going to be really cool. These aren't final or comprehensive, but hopefully give you a good idea of our goals. Okay, so that's really good. Good to see. They're going to try and move you away from just doing Ignite stuff, and that's it. It's just basically right now, like, Fire is like Pyro, Phoenix Flames, you're spreading Ignite, it's done. That's all you're doing. You don't use Living Bomb, you don't use Flame Strike. There's like 5 or 6 dead talents in the talent tree, so they're going to hope to remedy that. Frost. They're hoping to make buttons like Ray of Frost and Glacial Spike more interesting and to offer a unique alternative to the standard rotation. They really, really want to do that. Additionally, we're taking a look at the minimal Ice Lance build, which shouldn't be the correct way to play. I'm not even quite sure what this means, but I guess there's a build that basically doesn't press Ice Lance almost ever, and they're going to try and basically do away with that. They want Ice Lance to be an impactful button that is played around rather than a minimally cast due to the amount of modifiers that other talents can get. Okay, so they're trying to make that for sure. Also, some talents that we want to reassess in the talent tree instead move to baseline, such as Blizzard and Cold Snap. So again, the Flame Strike Cauterize treatment, Frost is going to get the exact same treatment. You're going to get Blizzard and Cold Snap baseline, which means you have 2 talents that are freed up for you to be able to use in the Frost talent tree. Lastly, the amount of talents required to make Icy Veins feel like a high impact cooldown are relatively high. We want to take this opportunity to make it so that it can stand a little bit more on its own. So that's really good. That means your actual Icy Veins cooldown will have some meat and potatoes to it rather than having to invest like 3 or 4 talents to make it feel good. Okay? Those are all the major changes right now for Mage. They're looking really good. I love what they're doing to the class tree. Shifting power being moved up. No longer have to stand on your Rune of Power for 12 seconds. That's gone. Very, very good. They've made some adjustments to the capstone nodes to give you some more choices. The only real throughput capstone anymore is the middle one, and then you can choose which direction you want to go. Do you want a really, really strong defensive? Do you want some AoE utility for your team? It's up to you, which is super cool. Arcane getting a bit of an overhaul in terms of some of the AoE talents and how it wants to do its AoE damage. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to actually change the gameplay loop for Arcane. I'd love to hear what you think about that in the comments down below. Fire and Frost are also getting changes. They're just coming in a future PTR build. Okay? That's it, guys. That's all the stuff coming from Mage. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. 10.1.5 is, again, going to be another exciting patch for probably multiple specs, and I'm really excited that Blizzard is continuing to do these reworks mid-expansion. Like, it's amazing. They're listening to player feedback, and they're making adjustments as we go, and I love to see it. So thank you guys so much again for watching. I love you all. I will see you in the next one.